I want to show you some pictures. Here's a computer magazine cover from 1983, imagining a device that's more or less a vision of the internet. Images like this help us to see the history of electronic media. They're illustrations, but they're also sources. As visual sources, though, we can't quote them without reproducing them. This is a kind of critical, fair use, which is fine in a video, but if I want to publish images in a journal or a book, it's not so simple as just saying the words fair use. Publishers are gatekeepers, and they generally want authors to ask permission. When I was working on my book Video Revolutions, in which that magazine cover appears, I had some problems with images and fair use that I want to talk about. I contacted the illustrator who did this art for the New York Times, introducing video cassettes using familiar media, and she gave me permission. I convinced the press it would be okay to use a Newsweek cover that shows the VCR as a movie theater without asking permission. Unfortunately, in the book, it's monochrome, but it's there. If you want color in an academic book, you often pay a subvention of thousands of dollars to offset the cost. I got permission to use this cover of The Perfect Vision, which represents video as a yellow brick road. Reproduced in the book, it's a bit like watching The Wizard of Oz on a black and white TV. There was one image I wanted to use and couldn't, because of the press's refusal to take a fair use risk. For cartoons like this one from Playboy, which speaks to the gendering of videotape, they insisted on permission, and Playboy said no. I asked for a reason, and they said that the intended use of the cartoon does not follow the Playboy brand. I don't blame the press for wanting to avoid an expensive lawsuit, but I'm troubled if the institutions we study have power over what we can say about them. Now, in part the problem here is one of established practices, customs. If there were a custom of reproducing cartoons as fair use, I wouldn't have been asked to seek permission. Compare this with frames of films or videos, which are widely used in academic books without permission, like Bordwell and Thompson's Film Art and Film History. Everyone agrees this is fair use. I wish we had the same freedom for other kinds of imagery. Along with many champions of fair use, I believe it applies to the Playboy cartoon, though some lawyers might disagree, and parsing why or why not's more than I can do here. But I'd say the issue is really that claiming fair use for some kinds of illustration needs to become widely accepted practice. Since I couldn't put the Playboy cartoon in the book, I put it on the web, along with many other images in the book and not, on a Pinterest board. The press linked to it from its website, and I shared it with my social networks. This wasn't a new thing for me. I share the images I find in my research all the time online. Pinterest is one way, but I'm more into Tumblr, where I've been posting primary sources and reblogging other people's images and GIFs for years. Some are fans, and some I see as colleagues, like Special Collections in Mass Media and Culture at the University of Maryland, and Cynthia Myers, a word from our sponsor, which collects old advertising. Sharing online also has the benefit of showing color images in color. Rather than saving images for publication, I've been sharing them online for anyone to learn from and use in their own work, and on Pinterest and Tumblr, no one seems to care about copyright or fair use. In researching early video games, I've been finding cartoons like this one from the magazine Changing Times, which are on my Tumblr, and I see them as so revealing of popular conceptions of media in the 70s. But to make these images work as scholarly illustration, we'll need robust online communities that value them as historical evidence. So I think one solution, certainly not the only one, but still a solution, to the twin problems of color reproduction and permission culture is to migrate our visual work as much as we can to open access online sharing platforms, and the more community we make in those spaces, the more meaningful our sharing will be, and then it won't distress me so much if a press keeps this Playboy cartoon depicting a kind of disappointing virtual reality sex of the 70s. The caption is, "I hate to seem old-fashioned, George, but I think I preferred it the old way." To keep that out of my printed work, it's been shared already, maybe more productively, online.